Hi, my name is Miss Morris. I teach second grade in Moore County, and I am here today to teach you about one of my favorite things to learn about in science, states of matter. Today, we're going to explore the three states of matter: solid, liquids, and gases. And we're going to look for states of matter that are all around us in our own houses. And then we're going to finish with a really fun experiment where we make a special type of state of matter. I'm so excited you could join me today. I know you're off from school right now, and it's really important to keep learning and keep growing your brain even when you're not going to school each day. And so I hope today that you can have fun and learn at the same time during this science lesson. Before we begin talking about the three different states of matter that we're going to explore today, first let's talk about what matter is. So basically, matter is the stuff that makes up the universe. Everything around us that takes up space is made of matter. For example, let me look around my house and let me find some things that are made of matter. Well, this book, Winnie Finn Worm Farmer. This is something that is made of matter. It has volume, it takes up space, it has mass, and so that is something that is made of matter. I also have some pretty cool sunglasses right here. Let's see. Sunglasses are made up of matter because everything around us is made up of matter. Even this stinky old sock, made up of matter. And one of my favorites I want to surprise you with, even my cute little kitty cat named Jewel is made up of matter. Because matter is anything around us that basically has a volume or an amount of space and has a mass. So I want you to look around your house right now, and what can you find that is made up of matter? Basically, anything that you can see is made up of matter. There are three types of matter that we are going to explore today: solids, liquids, and gases. The first state of matter that we're going to explore is a solid. A solid object is made up of little teeny tiny particles that you can't really see when they're separated, that come together in a really tight bonds and connections. So solid objects have a definite shape, they have a definite volume, and a definite mass. So I looked around my house to find some different solids, and I found some that you might recognize. The first solid I found is a pen. Let's look at this pen. If I put this pen into a container, it keeps its original shape. The pen doesn't change shapes when it's in a container. It has a definite shape and it takes up a definite amount of space. When I say definite, I mean it doesn't change. It stays the same shape and the same mass and takes up the same amount of space. Let's look at some other items I found. I found this cute little kitty cat. And for all my friends out there who like Legos, this cute little Lego person. These are definitely solid objects. They're made up of particles that are really tightly packed together so that when I put them into my container, it doesn't change shape. And neither does the Lego person. They take up the same amount of space, they take up the same amount of volume, and they have a definite shape. I also have a really big melon. Now, this was kind of just funny because I knew I wasn't going to be able to put it in this container. But this is another solid object. It has a definite shape. If I put it onto the table, right here, it doesn't expand out, it doesn't change its shape, it maintains its shape, and so it is a solid. So, if those are solids, then what is a liquid? Well, you guys have liquids all around you. In fact, in a few minutes, we're going to search for some in our own houses. But here I have a bottle of Shearwine soda. This is a soda that someone gave to me that I haven't opened yet. And as you can see, it is full of liquid. If I fill up a container with liquid, the liquid has no definite shape. It changes based on the container size. So if I poured this liquid into a different container, it would take a different shape. So it does not have a definite shape the way a solid has a definite shape. Let me show you an example of what I mean by that. So I have a cup of water. Water is another liquid. And I'm going to put my water on my table. And well, I guess I'll just hold it up so you can see it. I'm actually going to add some food coloring to this water. And food coloring is another liquid. Okay? The food coloring is in this little bottle right now. And watch what happens to it when I put it into the cup of water. You're going to see it change shapes to fill up this water. Isn't that cool? You're seeing the liquid change shapes based on the container. And if I swish it around, you can now see my liquid very clearly on video. So watch what happens when I put it into a different size container or different shaped container. I'm going to pour this liquid into this container. And do you see how its shape changes? It's no longer the same shape it was when it was in this cup. Let's pour it into another cup. Here's another container that looks differently. Let's pour it in, and I have to try not to spill. Woo. And look, its shape is different in this container. And so what happens with a liquid are the particles are not as tightly packed together. They're looser. And so when the liquid goes into another container that's a different shape, the loose particles are able to shift around and change to take a different shape. And it conforms to the shape of the container. Now, a liquid has the same amount of volume and the same amount of mass, but that shape is changing. And so now we have the third type of matter, which is gas. Gas is a little bit harder to understand because you can't always see it the way you can see a solid or a liquid. So what I want you guys all to do right now is to take your hand and I want you to fan your face. I don't want you to touch your face, I just want you to fan it. Do you feel that breeze? What is that breeze? If you answered air or oxygen, then you're correct. And that air is a type of gas. You can't see it, but you can feel it, right? Now I want you to take your hand and I want you to blow on it. Do you feel the air touching your hand? You're blowing out carbon dioxide, which is another type of gas. Now, gases are very different from liquids and from solids. Gases are particles with a lot of space between them, more than liquids. And all of these particles expand when there's no definite or confined space. okay? And so there's no definite volume, there's no definite shape of a gas. And I want to show you an example in a minute of how we can see that gas changes shape and volumes to expand and fill containers. But while I get that ready, I want you to take a minute and I want you to look around your house and I want you to find 3 examples of a solid and 2 examples of a liquid. So let's come back together in 1 minute. And remember, you're looking for 3 solids and 2 liquids. I hope you're each able to find 3 examples of a solid and 2 examples of a liquid around your house. While you were looking, I was also looking for something around my house. I was looking for something that I would be able to show you an example of how gas is able to expand to fill a closed container. If you remember, I told you that gas particles are really loose and they spread far apart. So gases are able to fill closed containers, and then they are able to leave and expand when the container opens. Here I have a closed Nalgene bottle. This Nalgene bottle doesn't have any liquids inside of it, so we would normally say it was empty. However, it's not really empty because it's full of gas. It's full of the air. So right now it's closed and the gas is inside of the Nalgene bottle and it is filling the Nalgene bottle. So the gas has expanded to fill the size of this Nalgene. When I open it, the gas or the air is able to leave and expand into the room. And so this is a great example of how gas is able to spread out indefinitely, meaning forever and ever, if it's not in a filled container. Because the air around us is not in any contained container and it's able to expand indefinitely. And so I hope that you have a good understanding now of a solid, a liquid, and a gas. Remember, solids hold definite shapes. The particles are really tight together and densely packed so that when you put this solid into a container, it's able to hold its shape because those particles are so densely connected and tight together. It doesn't change shape. It also has a definite volume and a definite mass. If you remember the example of my liquids, the liquid particles are not as tight together. They're looser. And so the liquid changes the shape based on the container. If you look at me pouring this liquid into the cup, it changes its shape, but the volume and the mass are still going to be the same. And then finally, the gas, the particles are the loosest. They're really far apart. And so when you open a container, the gas is able to expand forever and ever or indefinitely, and there's no definite shape and no definite volume. It changes based on the environment. Thank you so much for joining me on that little learning adventure. In a minute, we are actually going to do an experiment, and we're going to look at another type of state of matter that I haven't talked about yet. But I'm going to need a second to collect my materials, and while I do that, I'm going to give you guys an assignment. If you have a sheet of paper at home and a pen or a pencil, your job is to draw a little cartoon that explains the 3 states of matter. So you're going to take your sheet of paper and you're going to fold it into 3 sections. Watch how I do that. I'm going to take this side and fold it to the middle, and I'm going to make a crease. And then I'm going to take this side and I'm going to fold it to the middle, and I'm going to make a crease. When I open it up, I'm going to have 3 sections of my paper, section 1, 2, and 3. That's going to be 3 frames of your cartoon. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to draw a special cartoon that shows your understanding of solids, liquids, and gases. Have fun, be creative. It can be funny or it can be silly. You can use color pencils or crayons if you have them, or just a pen or pencil. But your job is to show that you understand the difference between a solid, a liquid, and a gas. We'll come back in 5 minutes for a really fun experiment. we're back. I hope you had fun making a cartoon that shows the 3 states of matter. Now we're going to do a really fun experiment where we look at how states of matter can change. So I have a question for you. Do you think states of matter can change? Like, do you think a solid can turn into a liquid? Or a liquid turn into a gas? Take a minute to think about that. If you answered yes, you're on the right track. States of matter can change. Here's an example. Here's some ice. Ice is definitely a solid. When I put it into a container, it does not change its shape. It has a definite volume and a definite mass. It meets all the characteristics of a solid. However, we all know what would happen if I put this ice into my cup and I let it sit out for the rest of the experiment. In fact, let's do that just to make sure we're on the right track. What would happen? If you said it would turn into water, again, you're on the right track. Solids can change into liquids and liquids can change into solids. If you mix it with the right materials or with the right temperatures, all sorts of states of matter can change. In fact, if we left this cup out on the sidewalk on a hot, sunny day, when we came back at the end of the day, there would not be as much water in the cup. That's because the sunlight would help this water turn into a gas through evaporation. So gases and liquids and solids can change based on different variables in the environment. Well, we're going to do a little experiment and we're going to see what happens when we mix a solid cornstarch, which is something that your mom or dad might have around the house to help them cook. Now, don't do this experiment at home unless your parents with you and they give you permission, because they might not be very happy if they go to grab the cornstarch and you're all out of it. And then don't tell them Miss Morse told you to do it. But I'm going to do this experiment for you. I'm going to add in some cornstarch to my bowl. And cornstarch is a solid. Okay, here it is. Now I am going to add some water, a liquid, to the cornstarch. And I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to start mixing it all around. Ew. It makes it really weird. Fun fact, they call this the cornstarch quicksand because if you've ever heard about quicksand in a movie, quicksand is a special type of sand that when you step in it, it's really hard to get out of. Your foot gets stuck. And the more you try and get out of it, the harder it is. So I added a little bit more cornstarch to make my quicksand a little bit gooier so that I can show you what this concoction is going to look like. You have to mix it all around. So I'm mixing, 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 and as you can see, it is lots of fun. Oh my goodness, I'm making a mess. All right, it is almost all mixed, and we're gonna have to decide if we think this is a solid, a liquid, a gas, or none of the above. So, I'm gonna roll it into a ball. Here is my cornstarch quicksand. Now, I roll it into a ball, really tight, it maintains a shape while it's in my hand. Like right now it's a ball, but look what happens. All of a sudden it changes, but it's not quite a liquid because it can maintain a shape. Like look at this. You see this ball I'm turning it into? That's the ball, but now as soon as I let go, this is strange. What is this? Well, this is not a solid, it's not a liquid, and it's definitely not a gas. It's called a suspension, and I didn't teach you about that. A suspension is a kind of mixture where you have two states of matter mixed together, and they don't quite take on the properties of either type of matter. So here we had a solid mixed with a liquid, and it didn't quite take on the properties of a solid, nor did it quite take on the properties of a liquid. It's kind of in between because it's really like a solid when I have it in my hand, but then when I release, it does this crazy gooey thing. And so it's called a suspension. This type of suspension is actually a solid dispensed in a liquid. It gets a little confusing, but basically the solid particles don't completely dissolve into the liquid and they maintain some of their properties. They really do call this cornstarch quicksand. And I'm going to sacrifice my little man because when you put it in, it really is like quicksand. It's hard to get out. Yikes. So that concludes my lesson. I hope you had a ton of fun today with me learning about the 3 states of matter. The really exciting thing is even though you're out of school this week and next week, me and also a lot of my friends and my colleagues are going to be putting together all sorts of fun educational videos just like this one so that you have lots of learning opportunities and the ability to keep growing your brain even while you're at home. Please keep reading. Please keep writing, drawing, doing music, anything, because all of those things help you keep your skills so that when you get back to school, you'll be ready to go. Thanks a lot. I'll see y'all later.